Have you ever been in an English conversation and you knew the words, you had practiced for hours, but when the moment came to speak, your mind went completely white? A total blank. You feel your face get hot, your heart starts to beat faster, and the perfect sentence you had in your head just disappears. You are left standing in silence, feeling foolish, feeling small. I know that feeling. I know it better than I would like to admit. My name is Alex, and today I am not here as a teacher who has all the answers. I am here as someone who has been exactly where you are now. I am here to tell you a story about my biggest failure in English, and how that failure led me to the single most important discovery of my entire journey. It was about 5 years ago. I had an interview for my dream job, a position in a company based in London. It was everything I had ever wanted. The opportunity to live abroad, to work in my field, to finally prove to myself that I could do it. I spent weeks preparing. I studied hundreds of English vocabulary words. I reviewed every rule in my English grammar books. I did every English practice exercise I could find online. I recorded myself to check my English pronunciation. I walked into that video call feeling prepared. I felt ready. The first few minutes were fine. I introduced myself. I answered some basic questions. I was feeling confident. And then the interviewer smiled and asked me a simple question. Tell me about a time you faced a challenge at work. And that's when it happened. The white screen, the blank page in my mind. It wasn't a difficult question. I had a dozen stories I could tell. But in that moment, under that pressure, my brain just shut down. I could hear a buzzing sound in my ears. I remember looking at the interviewer's face on the screen, waiting. And all I could say was, a challenge. Silence. The seconds felt like hours. I could feel the sweat on my forehead. I tried to find the words, but they were gone. All the vocabulary, all the grammar, all the practice. It was like a library of books had suddenly caught fire. I panicked. I started to stutter. I said a few broken sentences that made no sense. He just nodded slowly. I could see the disappointment in his eyes. The rest of the interview was a blur. I don't remember what else we talked about. The only thing I remember is the feeling of shame when I hung up the call. I didn't get the job. Of course, I didn't. I had failed. I felt like a fraud. All those years I spent trying to learn English. For what? To freeze on a simple question? For months after that, I was devastated. I thought the solution was to study even more. I downloaded more apps. I bought more courses. I focused on every tiny detail of the language. But nothing worked. Because the problem wasn't in my notebook. The problem was in my mind. The traditional methods taught me what to say, but nobody ever taught me how to feel. Nobody taught me how to handle the panic. And it was in that moment of complete frustration that I decided I was done. I was done following the same old advice. I was going to find my own path, a new approach, a way to build not just my English skills, but my inner strength. And if you are also looking for that new path, and you want to follow every step of this discovery that changed my game, subscribe to the channel right now. Because that is exactly what I am about to show you. Now, let's get to the first big key I discovered. After my failed interview, I became obsessed with a new question. Why do we freeze? I started reading books, not about language, but about psychology, neuroscience, and performance. And I discovered something incredible. The problem wasn't my English. The problem was my reaction to pressure. I realized I was a puppet, and my fear was pulling the strings. When fear pulled a string, my mouth closed. When shame pulled another string, my mind went blank. I understood that to speak English with freedom, I didn't need a bigger vocabulary. I needed to cut the strings. I needed to stop reacting and start responding. This realization changed everything. It became the foundation of a philosophy I now call the calm speaker's mindset. It's not a system of rules. It's a new way of thinking and feeling about your English conversation. It's about finding power in moments of imperfection. This mindset is built on two fundamental shifts in your thinking, and one simple daily habit. Let's start with the first, and most important, mindset shift. The first shift is this: you must become an observer, not a judge. Let me explain. For most of us, when we speak English, there is a voice in our head, a judge. And this judge is harsh. When you make a mistake, it says, "That was stupid." When you don't know a word, it says, "You see? You're not good enough." This inner judge is the source of all your panic. It's what turns a small mistake into a big emotional reaction. To become an observer means you learn to watch yourself speak without this judgment. You notice your mistakes, but you don't attach an emotion to them. You see them as data, not as a reflection of your worth. I remember the first time I consciously practiced this. I was at a coffee shop in my city, and I decided to order in English just for practice. The barista asked me what I wanted. I wanted to order a coffee with 2 milks. But in the moment, I got nervous, and I said, "I want 1 coffee, and milk 2. The judge in my head immediately screamed, "Milk 2? That's not even a sentence. You sound like a child." But then I remembered my new goal: be an observer. So I took a breath. I watched the judge scream, but I didn't believe it. Instead, a new voice in my head, the observer, said, "Interesting. The word order was incorrect. The correct way is 2 milks." That's it. No drama. No shame. I just smiled at the barista, corrected myself. "Sorry, I mean 2 milks." And he smiled back. The world didn't end. In fact, it was a moment of learning, not a moment of failure. This is how you start to develop a more natural English, by allowing yourself to be human. Do you see how this simple change in perspective can completely change the result? It's a small shift, but it makes all the difference. If this first idea already makes sense to you and has clarified things a little, leave a like on this video. That way, I know we are on the same page and that this content is truly helping you. Now, let's move to the second mindset shift. The second mindset shift is this: focus on connection, not perfection. When we are in a conversation, our biggest fear is looking bad. We want to have perfect grammar, perfect pronunciation, and a perfect vocabulary. We want the other person to be impressed with our English skills. But this focus on perfection is exactly what makes us nervous and robotic. It puts all the pressure on us. The solution is to change your goal. Your goal in an English conversation is not to be perfect. Your goal is to connect with the other person. That's it. When your goal is connection, everything changes. You stop worrying about yourself and you start focusing on the other person. You listen more deeply. You ask more questions. You become genuinely curious. I had a powerful experience with this when I was working on a project with a colleague from the United States. We were on a call, and he used a word I had never heard before. The old me would have panicked. I would have smiled and nodded, pretending to understand, terrified that he would think I was stupid if I asked. But this time, my goal was connection. So I just said, "I'm sorry. I've never heard that word before. Can you explain what it means?" He didn't think I was stupid. He was happy to explain. In fact, that moment changed our conversation. It became more open, more honest. He started speaking a bit more slowly, and I felt more comfortable. We connected. We built a real relationship. This is the secret to great listening practice. It's not just about your ears. It's about your intention. So here is your practice for this shift. In your next conversation in English, I want you to have only one goal: to understand the other person as deeply as possible. Don't worry about how you sound. Just focus on them. You will be amazed at how much more relaxed and fluent you become. Now we have the two mindset shifts. Be an observer, not a judge, and focus on connection, not perfection. But you might be thinking, "This sounds good, Alex, but how do I actually do this when I feel the panic rising?" That is where the one daily habit comes in. The one daily habit is what I call the 5-second pause. This is the most practical tool you will ever learn. It is the bridge between reacting and responding. A reaction is automatic, emotional, and usually something we regret. A response is conscious, calm, and powerful. The space between reaction and response is a pause. The habit is simple. Anytime you feel a strong emotional trigger, in English or in your native language, you must train yourself to pause for 5 seconds before you speak or act. In those 5 seconds, you do one thing. You breathe. Inhale deeply and exhale slowly. I first started practicing this with emails. When I received a stressful email from my boss, my automatic reaction was to get angry and write a defensive reply immediately. But I started using the 5-second pause. I would read the email, feel the anger rise, and then I would close my eyes and breathe for 5 seconds. In that tiny space, the fire of emotion would cool down. My brain would switch from panic mode to thinking mode, and my reply would be calm, strategic, and much more effective. So how does this apply to speaking English? When you are in a conversation and your mind goes blank, what is your automatic reaction? It's panic. You start saying, You look away. You get nervous. The 5-second pause is your weapon against this panic. The next time your mind goes blank, I want you to do this. Instead of panicking, just pause. Look at the person calmly. Take a quiet, gentle breath. It might feel a little awkward for a second, but to the other person, it just looks like you are thinking. And in that moment of quiet, you are taking back control. You are cutting the strings of the puppet. You can say something like, "Give me a moment to think," or, "That's an interesting question." You give your brain a chance to find the words instead of letting the panic flood it. This single habit will do more for your spoken English than any other exercise. So, I started practicing these things every day, observing my thoughts, focusing on connection, using the 5-second pause. It wasn't easy at first, but slowly, something started to change. Not just my English, but me. I became calmer, more confident, and less afraid of being imperfect. About a year after my big failure, another opportunity came up. A different company, a similar role, also based in London. I was terrified. The memory of that first interview was still so painful. But I knew this was my chance to see if this new approach really worked. I went into the video call, and just like before, the interviewer asked me a difficult question. A question I wasn't prepared for. And I felt it. That old feeling. The cold wave of panic starting to rise in my chest. The voice of the judge screaming in my head, "You're going to fail again." But this time, something was different. I didn't let the feeling control me. I looked at the interviewer, I gave a small, calm smile, and I took the 5-second pause. I took one deep, silent breath. In that silence, I wasn't panicking. I was resetting. I was choosing to respond, not react. And then I spoke. I said, "That's a very thoughtful question. Let me think about the best way to answer that." I calmly collected my thoughts, and then I gave my answer. It wasn't the most perfect, grammatically flawless answer in the history of the English language, but it was clear. It was honest. It was confident. It was me. I got the job. And when I moved to London, I realized the most important truth. The goal was never to speak perfect English like a native English speaker. That's a false dream. The goal was to become the kind of person who could walk into any room with any level of English and feel at peace. The goal was to be free. The moral of this story is simple. The chains that hold you back in your English journey are not in your mouth. They are not in your grammar book. They are in your mind. You keep looking for more words, more rules, more apps, but the key you are looking for is inside you. It is the ability to be calm in the face of imperfection. It is the strength to be a friend to yourself, not a judge. You have this strength too. It's already inside you. You just need to decide to use it. So here is your first step, your call to action. I don't want you to go study a list of vocabulary. I don't want you to do a grammar exercise. I want you to do something much simpler and much more powerful. Tonight and tomorrow, I just want you to notice. Notice the moments when you feel that emotional reaction. When you get frustrated with a listening practice exercise. When you feel shy in a conversation. Don't try to fix it. Don't try to change it. Just notice it. Say to yourself, "Ah, there it is, the reaction." Awareness is the first step to freedom. If this story and this lesson resonated with you, if it felt like I was speaking directly to you, then make sure you are subscribed to the channel, because this is just the beginning of our journey together. We are going to explore every aspect of the calm speaker's mindset to help you become a confident and fearless communicator. Thank you for being here with me today. Protect your mind, be kind to yourself, and remember, you are much more powerful than you think. I'll see you in the next video.